All right, looks like we're live on Instagram as well as Facebook. Hi, everybody. It's Jeremy, the Existential Wine Guy, saying hi and doing our last Facebook Live for the end of for the rest of the year. This is going to be. Oops. Let's get that notification out of the way. Yeah, we're going to take a break next week for the holiday, but I'll be back at you the first week of January, answering your wine questions and just goofing off and waxing philosophically about wine and what's going on with it and what we're doing with it. Anyway, there's a couple people that I want to thank because they've helped me out immeasurably with this little broadcast, as well as just overall just the support I've gotten from them. So I'm sure it'll be out there somewhere, but Russell Ray's from Kilton Cork, he's just been such a great supporter, as well as About Town Deb. Both of them have just really been very positive about what I'm doing here and everything like that. So it's just kind of cool, and I want to thank them for everything they've done for me this entire year. It's been a fantastic year. It's been a crazy year too. I've seen a lot of different things going on just with me personally. Not only my consulting that I do for wineries, tasting rooms and restaurants and things like that, but I just recently started working as a wine broker as well. So that has been super exciting for the last couple of months, and just getting more and more immersed into the wine world and the restaurant world and the hospitality world. It's just really been a lot of fun for me. So it's been it's been crazy. I don't know how to explain it other than that. Let's start off by what we're tasting today. This is a Dime from Wink. This is a Right Bank wine via Santa Barbara. This is a Cab and Merlot blend. It's absolutely fantastic. Wink is a really interesting company. They're one of the brands that I do now rep for, and how they started out as sort of an online business. You can only get their wines online, and you would sort of answer a bunch of questions through them, and then with their algorithms, they would pair you with wines that would suit your palate, and they've done absolutely fantastic. And now you're able to get the wines at the store or restaurants that start to bring them in. So you'll get to see them in the real world, not just in the virtual online world. So that has been pretty cool. So about 70% Cabernet, 30% Merlot. And absolutely just really kind of a fantastic blend. This is about as easy drinking as it comes. Kind of rich and luxurious on the palate. Really, really fun. I hate the crazy what do you call it, wine terms sometimes, so like luscious on the palate and velvety. But that's kind of the cool thing about wine, that we get to. It has its own vocabulary, and it comes from very weird places. Just kind of how you feel about texture and what your experience is with food, and what wine sort of recalls to you. Other things I've been doing this year, and I haven't talked about this a whole lot, but I'm helping associate produce and doing some of the social media for our friends at Bottle Talk with Rick and Paul. It's a wine podcast, and if you're not listening to that, please go to iTunes, download it. One thing I like about the show is they're sort of brief, about 20-30 minutes now. These guys are really, really funny, and both Rick and Paul are they take wine in a not so serious manner, but not too light either. I mean, I think that they have a good way of showing their appreciation for wine, talking about wine in a way that's really easy to understand without being snobby about it. So if you get a chance, go to their Instagram or their Facebook, rickandpaulwine.com. You can check out their website as well, but Rick and Paul Wine, you'll find them on all the formats, and you can check out and download their latest episode. One thing I love that they do also is they attack bad wine writing, basically people being uber pretentious and sort of like making up crazy words to describe things. So if you get a chance, definitely check those guys out. Let's see, here we go. All right, so what else have we got going on? One of the things that happens at the end of the year, generally during the holidays, I really get asked by a lot of people, what are you drinking? What wines are you drinking? More specifically, when I'm going to a specific event or a certain event, what wine should I be bringing? I think those are all really good questions. There's, we've talked about this before. We talked about the wine. I talked about the wines that I was serving with my Thanksgiving dinner that I was preparing, and that was a hoot. With Christmas, I'm not really sure what I'm doing. If I'm making dinner for a bunch of people yet, yeah, plans are still a little uncertain. But more than anything else, it got me thinking about the idea of, wine is one of those weird things that we actually care about. What we're bringing. Actually, not even just that we care about it, we're fairly concerned about it, and we want to make a good impression with wine. And it got me to thinking how funny it is that this doesn't happen with any other libation that you were going to bring. Nobody worries about like the beer that they're bringing. The only thing you think about beer is like, did I bring enough? I've got good friends who will bring over maybe a bottle of whiskey or anything like that, and nobody has a great concern of what type of whiskey I should be bringing. It's always like, hey, maybe it's something interesting, but they don't spend a lot of time with it. So why is it with wine that we get caught up in it? We get actually concerned, and it can actually build up some sort of anxiety. It's as if whatever we might bring, if it's not good enough, it will offend the guest or offend the host, and or your guest. I guess it can go either way. I find it very curious about that. How do we get to a point, especially in the United States, how did we get to a point that we are that concerned with the wine that we bring and how that wine will represent us? Love to hear your thoughts on it. My thoughts are a little bit that wine is one of those few things that takes us to incredibly different places as we're drinking it. And very often we can, we'll get caught up in that. We get caught up in the prestige, the class, basically, of the type of wine that we might bring. And we feel that if we bring something in that is inferior, that other people will think that we're inferior. And also that people are caught up like, hey, somebody just bought a bottle of wine, you should be happy about it. You shouldn't be judging the person by the type of wine that they brought in. True, false, what have you, it's still a thing. It's kind of funny that way. Interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a sec. If you're just joining me, it's Jeremy, the Existential Wine Guy. I come to you every Wine Wednesday or so, right around 5:30, and just to talk about wine, to talk about things relating to wine, the universe, Star Wars, whatever it happens to be. We've got a couple of people saying hi to me on Instagram, so I'll go ahead and say hi back. Who do we have here? Spiritual Lifeguard joined. Thank you so much. Who else do we have? We have, oh snap, Ponit? Oh God, I just butchered the name. I apologize. Roderick, thank you so much. It's good to see you around. And we also have White Cream Winery. Thank you so much. Always nice to have wineries around and having fun with their social media as well. Again, if you're just joining me, I'm right now I'm drinking Dime. This is a Santa Barbara Right Bank blend. This is Cabernet and Merlot, 70% Cab, 30% Merlot, out of Santa Barbara from our friends over at Wink. So, salute. I hope somebody there, or as you're watching this, you have a glass of wine in your hand as well. All right. So, back to that idea of why wine? Why do we get caught up in the class structure around wine? I'm sure this doesn't happen all other places, but I do. People will actually reach out to me, and they're fairly concerned. And even with clients, like friends of mine who have clients, and they want to send a bottle of wine, they will give me a call up and say, okay, what should I be sending them? They like cabs, and they want it to be, not too expensive, but also not too inexpensive at the same time. I think it's interesting that we get caught up in that. I have, a whole different philosophy. I'm a big fan of just saying, hey, I like what people bring me. I like, the best glass of wine I'm going to have is the one that I'm sharing with friends. Hopefully, some people out there who are watching right now. And I think that's, to me, that wine is more about community than sort of what's in the bottle sometimes. Don't get me wrong. There is absolutely a time for tasting wine and there's a time for drinking wine. And sometimes when I'm tasting, yes, I'll be as critical as the next person or as critical as I can be, trying to break down the notes, the flavors, and what I think the winery is doing or trying to do, or what the winemaker is trying to do, and also what the winery is trying to represent. However, it's just not something, when I go the other way, my friends are always surprised when whatever they bring me, I'm super happy with, always, because it's more about sharing, it's about the gift, and as long as I'm sharing that bottle of wine with someone who's a friend of mine, I'm feeling the love all the way around. So, again, if you're just joining me, it's Jeremy, the Existential Wine Guy. This is my last Facebook Live and Instagram Live before the end of the year. I'm going to sort of kick it from now until the end of the year in the wine industry. This is a little kind of a dry time, so to speak. It's, people have sort of, they're hunkering down. They're the restaurants, they bought their wine or are in the process of buying their wine. They're not sort of switching up their menus. They're just, they're just hard at work because after a long year, especially the year that we have had as a country, it's going to be nice to sort of relax a little bit. Spend time with friends, spend time with family, and hopefully when you're doing that, you get to share a bottle of wine with them, and you make the whole experience much better. I know that for a lot of people, the holidays can be a very stressful time, and they talk about the heavy amounts of drinking and other libation they do just to get through family functions. It's not quite that bad for me, but I totally understand the sentiment on it. Anyway. We have had a long year. It's been so crazy. I think about, just for me personally, just different things I've been trying to do with this. Broadcast is a good example of it. The consulting that some of you know that I do, as well as the wine broker and some of the other social media stuff that I'm doing and helping produce, a wine podcast other than my own. It's been kind of crazy. But it's also been a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to the next year and all the opportunities that it brings for me. Definitely going to continue doing this. I'd love any sort of feedback if there's something you want to see on the show, topics you would like me to talk about. I've been sort of all over the place. I did, we talked about a lot of, tasting room sort of etiquette, what you can expect in certain tasting rooms, what I expect. We did a big thing on Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy, the wines that I think best represent each movie. That's been a lot of fun. We've done a lot of informational subjects as well, specifically talking about certain varietals that you may or may not know about, or that I may or may not have known about, and exploring those wines and those varietals and what you can expect from a decent glass or a decent bottle of any of those. So always would like to hear from you. Can't always answer the questions directly on the broadcast. However, just, we'll put them in the comments later on, and I go through all of them, sometimes a little bit later, but I've certainly actually taken comments that I've had from viewers and turned it into the subject of the next broadcast down the road, specifically when we were talking about tasting notes. The sort of the pros and cons of them. I'm like, I'm the guy that says, hey, I don't want to see, I don't want to know what I'm supposed to be tasting. I like to know the history of the wine, but I don't need to know that, oh, hey, you're going to get, dark cherry and hints of, chocolate and all those type of things. I want to get that first. I want to get into the wine first, and then I want to talk to the people behind the bar. I've had other people say, oh, no, I actually really like the tasting notes. It gives me an idea of what I'm looking for as I get, into that glass. And, I have to say, wow, yeah, that's exactly right. I can totally see your point on that as well. Let's see, what else do I have here? let's see, we were talking about these different types of wine. Again, if there are things that you'd like for me to talk about, man, I'd like to. I also like talking about the nerd stuff too. Like if you want to like the industry insider, inside the industry, you know, behind the scenes, whether it be restaurants, whether it be you know, the pros and cons of working in a winery, because I can certainly attest to that and give some feedback there. First of all, I think if you get a chance to work at a winery, it's usually a pretty good gig. It's a lot of fun, but you do have to have sort of the right attitude going into it and the right expectations of it. So now that I'm just thinking about it and spitballing, I think that's a fantastic subject, and we'll probably that'll be the subject of my next broadcast. Also, hopefully I'll be doing some fun stuff in the future on location. So don't be surprised if you see me down doing this broadcast, maybe from Carmel, or maybe live from the Unified Wine and Grape Symposium, which is basically one of the largest wine industry events, and it happens right here in Sacramento. I'm not sure why it happens in Sacramento. It seems kind of weird to me. Other than we have a really nice convention center. It's a great town to come into, but we do. It's one of those great times where everybody converges on Sacramento, and you just can't get a reservation, a seat, or at the bar or any place at any decent restaurant in Sacramento. It's kind of crazy how our industry comes in and just takes over. Anyway, it is Jeremy, the Existential Wine Guy. I'm actually not going to do too long of a broadcast. Usually I like to do about 20 minutes or so, and then after that, I like to cut it off. This time we're going to do end it just a little bit early, but I just want to say, you know, some massive thank yous, more or less to you. I want to thank you for watching the broadcast. Sometimes I'm not even sure I would watch it, but I've got a lot of people who were there and saying hi, so I really appreciate it. And also for me personally, doing these type of things allows me to sort of re-examine, you know, my thoughts on wine, my thoughts on the industry, and just kind of the peripheral things that kind of go with it. So it's really kind of amazing for me. So it's selfish for me. Even if no one was watching, I would still be doing this just because it's a lot of fun. However, I do thank you for you know, taking a peek and looking at what I'm doing and throwing out those questions to me. It means a lot. So having said that, I guess I should pretty much end it. Hey, you know what? I also should just throw one more shout out to my wife, Jana Marlise. You can find her on Instagram as well. She does some amazing things, and she inspired me actually to get this going initially, and has been a great supporter through all of it. So I appreciate you and love you, baby. Hey, I'm done. Have an extraordinary holiday season. Have an incredibly safe and wondrous new year, and hopefully I'll see you the first week of January. Cheers and love.